Wow.
We're all failing.
Good morning. It's Friday, March the 16th, 2018. Happy to have you all here today.
That's like pretty smart.
You have a pencil?
The second sentence.
Sam.
Anybody have their homework for Monday?
It's on my desk.
Not
Yeah,
saying.
that wasn't. That was funny. I'm gonna check
You
it.
go back and do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and
I
check it.
think you did another
I'll
one.
find the recess.
You're gonna give me another one?
But she's like, apparently get personal.
Start over.
Okay.
Just sort of like that.
Have you ever like just bit into the side of the toothpick?
And that's definitely how you eat one, right?
Okay, that was some exciting video to start the day.
So
That sounds good.
Let's take out our bot, please.
Yeah, oh.
We're getting close, right? No? Yes?
Extra.
Of course. I printed more last night
Thank you.
because I have 32 people in my class.
Oh.
You have to do something about the food is going. Okay, I think we were discussing, did we modulate or did we not? One way we could think about this just cadenced here. And we kind of felt like we were in E minor there. Just to review the last bit of that. Proceeding from there. Sound like a cadence in D minor? Kinda, sure it did. Can we agree that that's A minor with a Picardy third? Do we have any problems with that? Well, when did it become A minor? Does it matter? Of course not. When did it become A minor? Nothing I do matters very much other than paying the bills. Without that, others would suffer. Now, to contribute to your suffering, right after the fermata, C sharp E, E, G. Seven of something, yes? So is it 7 in the key of D minor? Is it 7 of 4 in the key of A minor? Is it 7 of 2 in the 7 of 7 in the key of E minor? Well, it's hard to make anything in E minor sound like D minor, isn't it? It's just not really very closely related. Sort of like a second cousin or your first cousin's cousin or something. To me, that's all kind of a dominant seventh chord prepared by the 7 that becomes 5/7 in D minor. Okay, if that's the case, I would call it a phrase modulation to D minor. At that point, the D minor triad on beat 4 becomes 4 in the key of A minor. So that is a pivot chord modulation on beat 4 of that measure. So it's sort of immaterial whether it's 5/7 of 4 or 5/7 of 1 in the key of D minor. It's really immaterial, but let's call that 4 in the key of A minor, right there, after a common chord modulation. Also, 4 is a predominant, isn't it? Yes, it is. And what is the next chord? 5/14. A dominant! Specifically, I know what it is. Do any of you know what it is?
It's a 5/14.
That's exactly what it is. And does Bach resolve it correctly? Does Bach resolve it correctly?
Yes.
5 to 5, 7 to 1, 2 to 1, and I'm sorry, I said that wrong. 4 to 3, 7 to 1, 5 to 5, and 2. What's the next word after I say 2? 1. Does Bach do that? This is not a hard question, so we're either lost or too stoned, but I've never found that to inhibit analysis. So what's the issue? Does Bach resolve 2 to 1 in this 5/4-2 chord? Thank you, the great Torini has answered us with the answer no. 2 moves to 3. What do you think allows Bach to do that? I think he didn't even think about it. I think what's going on there is this. In the 2 inner lines, so I would have to say the linear operation overrides the basic voice leading pattern. And that's what you're allowed to do if you're J.S. Bach, okay? The linear pattern overrides basic voice leading pattern. What would have happened if he'd have resolved it correctly?
You'd have a lot less
It wouldn't sound much different, would it? It really wouldn't. I resolved that correctly. This time I'll do Bach style. I need the pedal, sorry, that was going poorly from the get-go. Okay, I find that to be a really fun spot in the world right there. So what Bach is trying to do is harmonize this melody at the end of the line probably harmonizing some words like, oh, our God is great, or something like that, but in German. Okay? Gut. God is good. Gut. So let's play the soprano against the bass. Okay, so that's kind of startling from the beginning of the phrase. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, now the last two measures, the last two beats of the line. 5, 4, 2. David, why do you do that? What is compelling you to do that? You know what I'm going to do? Same thing you should do. Blame it on my parents. Okay? It was really their fault. 1, 6. That's a very colorful chord. What is it?
2, 7.
Well, if we're gonna say it, let's say it correctly. 2, 4, 3. Let's recognize the inversion. Very pretty. Now, what is that 2, 4, 3 chord? Is it not followed by 1, 6, 4 with the bass doubled? Yes? 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 Cool? Cool?
Cool.
Cool?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so
Oh, yes.
Cool. Yes, cool.
let's describe all the notes in that beat. Soprano. It could be a chord tone in a 2, 4, 3 chord. I think not, but definitely a chord. Well, I take that back. Take it back.
Take it back now.
Okay, so we can recognize that this is an ascension to that 1, 6, 4 chord. Yes? Okay. So if this is in fact 2, 64, 3, is that correct? 4, 6, 3. Okay. We know it forms that chord, but it doesn't really form a very solid progression because the progression from this note here let's look at the stability of the chords. 5, 4, 2, not stable. Okay? 1, 6, mildly stable. unstable in a stable way, kinda like your dad or something.
Yes.
Just depends on what moods he's
Your
in.
mom.
Why is Dad always in such a bad mood? You're spending his money. He hates that. Okay, so this is a chord tone in E and A, correct? This is a chord tone in A only. I'm alluding to the soprano. Okay? You're wondering where I'm going with all of this. It is to now describe each of these notes towards this note, and 164 being very unstable towards this note, to this note, to this note. 5 straight up here, pretty stable, but not final. 5 to 1, stable as all get out. D sharp, not stable. The C. Okay, this is the chord of fun. To me, that's B, D sharp, F and sharp, A. Yes? Got that? That's 5, 6, 5 of 5. To do a visual representation would be 5.
If you count the C instead of the B, you'll be at trim.
I don't think so, but that's a good point. The C, how does the C really function?
I mean, I can see the suspension and stuff.
Okay, you see the
Yeah.
suspension. Okay, so let's acknowledge that this chord here on the after beat is 5, 6, 5 of 5. Good with that, coming from a 7/6 suspension. That's not to say that within that context that doesn't form some other harmonic entity. So we want to build from stable to less stable, from harmonic to less harmonic. What's non-harmonic? What is several non-harmonic things coming together to form other harmonies? Well, I don't know. Okay, so D sharp, F sharp, A, C does in fact form a chord, doesn't it? What? Seven, 7 of 5. So it's not quite your augmented 6 chord, and if it were gonna be augmented 6 to this, we would have an F natural to E and D sharp to E, and that would be an inverted augmented 6 in root position. We're not quite there. So really, this 7 of 5, I don't know what that is, but it's really kind of one chord, one being more one being more dissonant, being a little more dissonant, this being a little more dissonant than that, in kind of a, then this all looks very basic voice leading pattern-y there when we get to the 5-1 part. So, some clarity here, some ambiguity in the previous measure in terms of D minor. So, what am I saying about this chord? This is the chord that all of this was leading up to. Sometimes you have to be over here to understand what's over here. What if I examine each of these tones as a non-harmonic tone? What would they be? The only chord tone present there is the A in the soprano. What are the other notes if we were describing these three notes as non-harmonic tones? What would they be? The alto would be this note here, described as a non-harmonic tone, would be what?
Passing.
These are not the hard ones. These are the easy ones. Okay, so an accented passing tone, also known as Alabama Public Television. Okay? Now, taking that as a clue, what is that note? Yes, that's exactly right. You are spot on.
She's in an Amazon.
Ah, now! The bass!
Full bass.
And a pocket.
That is correct. I didn't quite dab there, did I?
No,
That was not a thing when I was a person.
You should dab.
The farther a person gets over the age of 28, the more invisible they become. So just realize that one day, in the near future, you'll start becoming invisible. Like your history has been changed or something and you're fading from the photograph.
Oh my gosh.
Take me now.
Okay, so if we call that an appoggiatura, it's approached by lead from a chord tone, resolves downward to a chord tone by step. It's a strong beat phenomenon, so we could call that an appoggiatura. So I think when you have some bizarre twist of also, what is it doing? Is it not? Look, if the D were here, you would see that this 1-6 chord passed up to a 1-6-4 chord. So there is a lot of passing stuff going on there. So I really see, now what am I even talking about? Let's clear that up first. When a basic voice leading pattern looks extremely odd, what is the linear function that's making that happen? If I see a progression 5 to 1, I find that pretty straightforward. 5 of 5 to 5 to 1, I find that pretty straightforward. 1-6 to 2-6-4, 3 to 1-6-4, I don't have that in any of the basic voice leading charts. Actually, a 1 to 2 to 1 progression would be considered terrible in most cases. So I think it's a happy accident that the 2-6-4-3 chord is formed What's the essence of a 6-4-3-4? 6-4 is the essence of a 6-4-3 chord.
Makes sense.
It's not exactly like a passing 6-4 chord though, is it? Because we can clearly see it's not like that. I'm making an analogy, an analogy that we could turn into a metaphor.
Ooh.
Well, that was exhausting. Did anyone understand any of that? Were you following along?
Yes.
It is not an exercise of,
Futility?
you may AMA, ask me anything at this point before we proceed.
What is your least favorite animal?
80 on attendance today. It took us a while, but we got to 80%.
Yeah.
Who can name the 4 people who are here?
Drew. She could be having to work.
Kevin, Jim, Michael,
Sienna.
Michael. No, she's often here. Others.
I think it was in
You messed up.
I don't know. There's probably some new regulation about gossiping about your students in their class. Ought to come to class. We could say some stuff about people that
Attendance
aren't
is a
here.
part of our grade, isn't it?
It's in the syllabus, but I don't count it.
Oh.
I mean, if you can do the work, you can do the work.
Oh,
The
okay.
problem with the attendance is the work doesn't get done if you don't show up. Although there are exceptions to everything. The thing, exceptions proves the rule, you've heard that all your life. It's really, that's not the correct phrase. The actual translation is the exception test the rule. So when you have an exception, sometimes it does really work. It doesn't prove the rule, it tests the rule. Okay, all
Tests the rule.
completely stop listening to that. That means we have a big, long, 4-measure phrase to dive into here.
Yeah.
Or should we take the repeats and re-analyze the first half? I could come up with a different version the next time through. Let's do it. We're moving forward. I think we are in A to begin the next part. Now that's a fun thing.
Yeah.
We'll look for that funness later. That's not right. That's right. Okay, gotta do that over. I was totally unprepared to read that in keyboard style. My bad. Do we have any real hymn players in the class? Because they could just knock this out of the ballpark.
Rocky. Yeah.
You got it for me?
I say about 20%.
No, stop it.
20%.
It's an old song.
It's a chance, bro. You got the camera. It's your chance.
Okay, one more time. Leap to 6, 6, 6.
That's it. That devil's number.
Okay. 5, C is a chord tone, but the F is not. So what does the F make?
Maybe he wanted just to add some color.
I think it makes a 6 chord, and why?
The basic color.
Why?
What is it, Dalton?
Honesty?
6, 7, 6,
It's 6/6.
yeah.
It's 6/6. Why is it 6/6? Why did he leap to 6/6? Who can do this? Who can do it?
Why not?
What happened, or what key do we cadence in?
A minor.
We do not. The next cadence, maybe I wasn't clear. The next bird's eye,
It's in C.
C. That's a clue. Why does he go to 6/6?
Is this the 4 chord?
It is the pivot chord into the key of C. C. Or, why do we know this? Because the next chord is 5/7 in the key of C, isn't it?
Yes.
With some passing action going on, and then the third beat is straight up 1 in the key of C. So that's some handy stuff there. Let's hear that. We're in A minor. Now that's the 6th chord. We don't know we're in C at that point. Only in the future do we know we're in C. And then I'll repeat the F. Asymptone C. Okay. Do a little shorthand here. This being the 1 chord, and then this being the 6th chord, becoming the 4 chord in the key of C. That's an F, please. Sorry about that. Here. Five, 7. And then this motion becomes 5 right here, and then 1. Okay. It's a low singing bass note, isn't it?
Apparently that's what they were singing wrong.
Yes, I know
What you gonna do?
it. But I don't sing that though, I sing like
Guess some old Germans could sing, huh? Okay.
me earlier in the morning.
Pivot chord being a predominant in the new chord, this E being passing to a straight up 5 chord, now to 1. Here is the question here. If this is 1, what is the after beat? Okay, let's figure this out, please. This is 1. This, you would think, would be a 5 chord because you have a G, a B, and a D, but there's also an E. And if that is the case, that is what? It's gonna be a 6/4 chord. What is the 6/4 chord in the key of C? Can we say 3? Can we say that all together? 3, 6, 4. Okay, now I'm gonna make a point here. Oh dear. And what is this chord here? A, C, E. That's gonna be 6, yes? Great. Pretend this was not 1, but 6, 6. Would this not be a passing 6/4 chord? Yes, it would. So it's kind of, let's see. What we would need is something that went A, B, C, right? And we don't really get that, but we do get the C. And then we have this other more interesting passing motion there. But now, this really becomes 6/4-3, doesn't it, with the D? 6/4-3 chord. Have we ever seen anything that looked like that before? Anywhere today?
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, so this is again kind of a passing chord, like this was kind of a passing chord. This one seems pretty functional when we get to 6. Now, what happens here? We have 2 E's, a G, and a B flat. What is that chord in this context? It's even in the right inversion. Okay, just so, this would be 7 of 4. Just 7/6 of 4. We just need to look at what the leading tone would be, right? Does Bach resolve this correctly? The E goes to F, the B flat goes to A, and the 4th moves down to a 4th. And now, the thing is, did Bach, even though this is 7 of 4, did he resolve it to 4? No. What did he resolve it to? Great, 2/6. Good job there. He resolves it to 2/6. How does 2/6 relate to the 4 chord? Well, as we explained the other day, that would be what? Right, the deceptive motion of 4 resolving to 2, 6. So there's a little internal deceptive motion moving to a straight up 2 chord, and then this F holds over to form a dominant 7th chord, and then we have a little passing situation there. And then when he moves through the E to the D, it's no longer a 5-7 chord, it's just a 5 chord, and that's what allows, see, the F kind of resolves there, and then it goes back up to there. So it's really this F resolving to that E there through the elaboration. Everything else is the same, 2 moving to 1, the frustrated leading tone moving to that. So, in a way, simple stuff, in another way, not as simple. Yes?
I could be very wrong, but I put that whole section in F, and it seemed to function a lot more
Well,
simply.
I think what doesn't work for me about F is he uses F to form the dominant to C, form a dominant 7th chord to C. And we do cadence in C. It's not a half cadence unless it's a reinforced half cadence, which I don't think is the situation there. I think this B flat is a natural motion to 4, even though he doesn't go to 4, he goes to 2. The motion to 4, why this Bach and so many common practice period composers want to highlight the subdominant or the predominant. Why? It is the one thing that drives us to the dominant, which is what drives us to the tonic. So we often see in Baroque music, in a large scale, motion to the subdominant before we get to the final part of the piece. So I do see how you could see it in F, and really all the harmony functions the same. I'm just more of a C person there. Any other questions on that phrase? Okay. When do we know we're back in A on the last phrase?
Second last part.
When exactly?
For sure.
Okay,
First
I agree that
the first beat.
we have a dominant 7th in the key of A, yes, right on the 3rd beat. Does it go to the tonic?
No.
It goes to deception, so in that sense, we may know that we're in A just because of the deception. But the fact,
The first beat's
The first beat's a 4, and then 7, 7, 5. That's what I put.
okay. I think we can theoretically see that it's in A. Would our ears hear it in A? When would our ears hear it in A?
On that deceptive motion.
Kind of, but we really don't get an A in the bass until the very last note. So I think as musicians, we know it's an A. Just thinking as church members hearing this chorale, unless you get used to it. Okay, what I do want you to notice is this very Schenkerian linear operation in the melody. After the fermata, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. That's very A minor-y. So Bach could have very easily gone 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1 there, and it would have sounded very, but he starts in C major. That's still C major.